Welcome, everyone, to our virtual Fireside Chat presented by Joveo, AI and Talent Acquisition, Hype versus Reality. I'm Matt Charney. I'll be the moderator today. And if you've ever spent any time in the recruiting world lately, you probably know that AI is the most overused but least understood term in the business. So today we're going to cut through all of that marketing noise and talk about what's actually happening, where AI is creating value in recruiting, where it's still smoke and mirrors, and how you as a practitioner or leader can tell the difference. So joining me are three people who know this space inside and out. So Sven Elbert, who is joining us from Auf Deutschland. He is a senior analyst at Fosway Group, who leads some of the most respected independent research in the TA space. Sven, welcome.
Hello.
And V. Gates. And I'm joined also by David Weinstock, who is actually doing the work as Vice President of Talent Acquisition at News Story. He's using AI tools in real-world hiring right now. And of course, last but certainly not least, KJ, the founder and CEO of Joveo, which I can say is one of the companies helping lead the change in AI-driven recruitment marketing. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, let's jump right into it. So Sven, as an analyst, let's just kind of start with the obvious. There's a huge gap that seems to be existing between what TA vendors promise with AI and what they actually deliver. In fact, in your research, only 27% of AI features, it said, were live and usable. Why does that gap exist?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of hype, obviously, as we all know. Vendors, I guess, underestimate the hard work, data integration, governance, change. And for buyers, there's a lot of things happening on slides, but then when it comes to implementation, there's a lot of struggle.
Okay, great. Is this a case of vendors, you think, overhyping their roadmaps, or are customers demanding functionality that the tech just can't deliver yet?
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, I guess, among buyers as to what actually works and where AI does create value. And the vendor hype and noise makes it difficult. I mean, LLMs turned every vendor into an AI provider. So what our research, we wanted to find out really who's walking the talk. And what we found is that there's a few with very high ambitions, but, who maybe talk more than they walk. And then there's others who have actually embraced it and are putting things out that actually work. So I think that's definitely an interesting finding there.
So hyperbole among talent acquisition technology providers, obviously a very new phenomenon there. But in your report, you evaluated vendors based on both AI vision and adoption maturity. Just kind of straight talk, can you break down what that means and how that's measured?
Yeah, so we looked a little bit at, again, what was happening in a collaborative research project, and the buyers were really not adopting very much. So we kind of turned it over to the vendors and said, hey guys, what is it actually that you're shipping? So from that perspective, it was really good to see what is actually already live and available, what can be adopted. And I think the research, basically we segmented the features into categories to kind of identify what is mainstream, what is next wave, what is edge advantage. So both from a vendor and corporate perspective. And I think that is probably quite an interesting finding in the report.
It sounds like it. So just TLDR high level, what areas of TA tech are seeing the most innovation with AI? And by that, I mean things that are actually usable, live, and adding impact right now.
Yeah, so I mean, what's working is obviously around programmatic job advertising, campaign optimization, A/B testing. Those things are very much in play, and their AI accelerates and automates a lot. Recommendations at scale is another one around jobs, audience, content suggestions. More newly also around screening, some of the automation that AI can provide there, FAQ, scheduling, basic comms. Where it needs work, it's probably more around explainability, audit trails, so that bias control kind of thing at a product level, especially in EMEA, interestingly enough, is where vendors need to do a bit more. And then probably the deep integration into the hiring manager and recruiter workflows. Only 5% of those live AI features actually were designed primarily for hiring managers, which I think is still an opportunity then obviously for the vendors to do something more for the hiring manager in the future.
Great. One last question for you, Sven. Joveo shows up on your AI reality chart in the top right quadrant, which obviously means that they are top ranking both in terms of vision and adoption maturity. What specifically stood out about Joveo's AI capabilities that put them there?
Yeah, so there's strong alignment between the roadmap and the media-driven TA use cases. I guess the clear focus on measurable outcomes, cost per hire, time to fill, quality, those kind of things stood out. The evidence of life, particularly with multi-country enterprise customers and the adoption that we're seeing there. I think the closed loop also from like the first ad impression to actually then hire, and that is what stood out. I guess there's a cluster of vendors there. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're going to turn it over to KJ. KJ, congratulations. I know Sven's work, and he obviously does a lot of due diligence, and I think it's a very high honor to be rated as a market leader there. So given the fact they were rated market best in a dozen different AI functions, that's pretty good. What has been your philosophy for integrating AI that actually works? Talk to me about that.
So I'll take a step back here, right? And I'd like to Sven's point. AI itself has made building AI applications very easy. Now the question is, anybody can spin up a demo literally in a matter of a day, right? So, and TA has been historically following the practice of seeing is believing, but I think that game has been appended. Seeing is no more believing because everybody can show the stuff. Okay, where the rubber meets the road is delivering, and delivering happens on two big fronts. One is the outcome, and second is deep integration. Uh, Now, for delivering, you have to now use a lot of data in the back end, right? You have to have multiple sources of data. You marry that with the LLMs. You got to figure it out. So the foundational pieces are very, very hard to build on the back end. Now, we use Snowflake as, and we are like one of the keynote speakers in startups for Snowflake, right? To they put us on the stage and say, learn startups, right? How the entire tech stack and platform is built. There are different models, different services that you have to put together in a very smart fashion for the use cases that you represent, right? Some LLMs are good for one specific use case, some are for different use case. So now how you think about how to put it together, that's a hard work, right? That's a part of delivering. And then integrating, oh, that's the beast, right? That's the holy grail we have always dealt with. So integrating that, making sense of it, putting the data back or insights back into the systems is not something that happens overnight. We have been at it for about 3 to 4 years, even before the GPT wave started. The way we go about doing it is the use cases that we integrate with are not out of the box through any other third party provider. Every client is unique. It is not one size fits all. Everybody has, some have multiple ATSs, some have multiple CRMs, some have different brands, some have location geographies. Largest staffing companies have different languages. Now you start thinking about multivariate systems and disparate technologies, so putting it all together. So you have to build an intelligence layer in the middle, which interacts with the front end and the back end at the same time. So we built our own framework to kind of make sure that we anticipate what the world is going to be dealing with. Just putting an AI layer and then making it deal with the client's integrations is not going to work. It does not work. Otherwise it becomes a point-to-point integration. That means every single AI implementation or delivery becomes standalone and is not repeatable. And if it is not repeatable, you're not building best in class, right? So there is a huge amount of philosophical decisions that we have to take at the beginning.
So obviously, based off of that response, I think we understand that you're probably way ahead of the market in terms of just insight and acumen. When I kind of just boil that down, so Sven, a follow-up question for you, and then we'll turn it over to David. But I want to just make this useful for some of the TA teams that might be watching this. Obviously, every vendor, as you said earlier, is kind of an AI vendor now. What is the one question in the evaluation process that you recommend asking to cut through the hype? And what's the one question that you would say is the biggest way to expose a vendor who might be using like a Replit or vaporware?
Yeah, so I think one key question, particularly here in EMEA, is what happens when the AI is wrong? How can you see this and correct that? So like this transparency kind of question with the EU AI Act right in front of us, obviously that is a key one. And then for the vendors in general, like seeing 3 live customers where AI features have changed behavior and produced some measurable outcomes. If your vendor can talk to those outcomes and tell you what the baseline was, what changed, and what the measured result was, I think that's really key. And then you should continue to talk. That's the entry question, if you like. But you have to go deep into the engine room with them as well. So I appreciate you want one question, but sometimes it's worth to ask multiple ones because sometimes these are obviously big investments.
I would say so. I kind of want to take that approach and framework and turn it over to David, who is, I'm sure, diluted with more AI vendors than he knows what to do with. David, if you could just talk me through kind of what your stack looks like right now in terms of AI, and how you evaluated those technologies or the criteria you used to ultimately select them.
Thanks, Matt. So we were adopters of ChatGPT or OpenAI's ChatGPT about a year ago. And so that was our first entry point. And that would be my advice to talent practitioners. While AI is common space for TA, depending on your industry may be lagging the AI boom, if you will. And so in education, sometimes we can be a little bit slower to adopt because of legalities and a myriad of reasons. And so that was us dipping our toe into the proverbial pool of AI. And so we started using it for our sourcing messages, and we started building job posting GPTs and so forth. Today, I'm excited to share our tech stack has expanded. So not only do we use OpenAI's business license, and now we're actually going enterprise for the whole business, which is really cool, but it started in our department. Which is really neat. And so now we partner with Joveo for our programmatic. They're also working on websites for us and actual AI bots, like actual AI conversational bots. So I want to clear that because there are a lot of companies that have chat bots that have all of a sudden overnight changed their website domain from .com to .ai, and at the end of the day, it's actually not generative. It's still a traditional chatbot of yesteryear. So now we're about to go live with Ashby. Ashby is integrated with Joveo, so it's a seamless integration. And we're not an easy company. We're not an easy client. We operate 16 companies under one, and Joveo and Ashby worked together and they figured it out. So I have 16 different job boards under one ATS and one programmatic. And by the way, as we shared in a separate call, I have one recruitment marketing manager. And while she's amazing, she's still one person. So in summary, we have ChatGPT, we have Joveo, we use BrideHire to evaluate our interview performance to make sure that we're creating a deliverable and delivering an equitable and top-notch interview process for our candidates, and then we're using Ashby as the engine. So and then also I don't want to forget we're also using Juicebox. So I'm very fortunate that my ELT, our board, the organization itself has equipped us to invest in these tools, but we want to make sure that we're delivering. So we have been vetted. I get LinkedIn invites from folks. We get messages. We get random calendar invites. We get sales messages. They go through my ELT. They go through my recruiter. So yes, I am sold every single day on AI and recruitment tech. So how do I go about that, right? Not to belabor the point. So to Sven's point, or excuse me, KJ's point, I am so cautious of slideware, and I'll actually give Joveo some street cred. They handled it. I said, guys, I don't want to see all the awards. I don't want to see your scripted demo. Like, here are our scenarios, right? So how I evaluate AI vendors and partners, I don't like to use the word vendor, I like to use the word partner, and is I'll go through social selling, or I'll look for social signals. So I'll use groups like the RL100 USA, and I'll go find talent acquisition practitioners who've already purchased the tool. And so I'm going to go ask them to get on a call, and I'm going to ride along on a screen share, just like we're doing today. I want to go see the product in real time. Okay, and the reason I do that is then I do a demo, and I see what is reality versus what I'm being pitched, because then I can find who's lying or over embellishing or who's telling the truth and honest and transparent, right? So I'll look at Reddit recruiting. There's a lot of smart folks on the recruiting Reddit subreddit. And I go look and I look for social signals. I don't go to G2. I'm not reliant on vendors to show me their slideware or this beautiful deck that doesn't apply to my business case. I flip the script. I go do my research first, then I go through the sales cycle, and then I mirror the two together. So when I'm looking at AI, I'm evaluating four things. What's actually live versus, and I don't tell the companies I'm doing this. So that's the clear thing. I'm not telling a Joveo or an Ashby or a Juicebox or another company, hey, I'm going to go look at your clients, right? I'm a sourcer at the end of the day. I know how to go find people who are using tools, right? So I go and have transparent conversations, and I mirror that against what I'm being sold at to find the differences. So I'm looking at the transparency. So it's what is actually live, how transparent is the partner of the vendor? Like, are they telling me what the back end is, or are they not? And it's usually a white label AI wrapper, right? And then 3, what does the integration look like? And then 4, is it actually usable without heroics, right? Like, I'm so tired of middleware, to KJ's point, right? My tech stack is fluid, meaning all of my things that I have just listed all work together seamlessly, and they support one another. It's simple as smart, simple as clean. So the tech's got to work, it's got to be outcome driven, and that's how I evaluate tech. So a little bit of coy, but at the end of the day, no one's going to care about my business and my company more than me. Vendors can say they can, but at the end of the day, it's just human nature. I've been hired to support this organization, and I have to protect it.
So that was clearly you get it. That was and congratulations, your stack definitely stacks up. I would say. Just there's a lot I want to drill back on, but I
Sure.
just now that you've essentially adopted all of these technologies, I know it still seems early days with the Ashby implementation, but what are the impact metrics that you are looking at to make sure that, on an ongoing basis, it is creating the sort of ROI that you're looking for?
Yeah, right. Great question. Organizations are not in the business of just giving you money just for fun. There is an expected ROI, right, as a department leader. And so the first thing we do for Joveo was looking at cost per application and cost. That was the starting point, right? So I think what I would recommend is there's like an initial metric and then there's a follow-up metric, right? And keep pushing your partners further and further and keep pushing them to deliver and deliver. So let's start with cost per application first, right? Joveo delivered. We're down, since implementation, over 30% on cost per application. So that's a tangible number, right? That I can go back to the organization and say, by using this partner and vendor and technology, we're seeing X. Then with the integration with Ashby, that's not enough, right? And KJ understands this more than most, if not all, CEOs, right, of RegTech. Now we're going to say, that's great. That's bar level 1. Now bar 2 is let's start decreasing cost per hire, right? And then once we start decreasing cost per hire, let's work on quality of hire. So I think it's important when you're partnering with someone to have a phased approach and continuing to push them to deliver and having that. When I think about Ashby, that should be recruiter capacity, right? If their whole thing is introducing AI and automations, which by the way are two separate things. I think sometimes we forget that in the AI space. Automations does not mean AI. Those are two separate things. So we should see that recruiter capacity increases. right? If automations and AI is helping us look at things differently and making data-driven decisions, then our capacity, because we're spending less time on administrative minutia, should increase. Juicebox the same way. Time to fill should decrease. Time to hire should decrease. The number of candidates that we're responsible for should increase, right? And that's where you start to make, so you have to look at each thing. A sourcing tool is going to have different ROI than a programmatic, and a programmatic is going to have a different metric than an ATS. So you have to figure out what are the metrics you're going to use phase 1, 2, and 3 to continue to deliver ROI over the long term.
Wow. Again, there's a lot I want to drill on, but maybe separately. But yeah, congratulations on clearly having a lot of this figured out in ways that your colleagues often don't. I'm going to turn this over to Sven. Just I want to look ahead. Next 12 to 18 months. I know we talk a lot about the future, and it's hard to predict. And if we could, we'd all be millionaires. But like, what's the next frontier, do you think, for AI and talent acquisition? Where do you see the most progress happening?
Yeah, so it's running in phases. So currently everyone is looking at these AI agents, of course. So that is probably where the next 12 to 18 months in terms of adoption. Currently, only 10% of organizations are using AI agents, for example, in some use cases already in EMEA. So I think that is the area where we're going to see the most adoption and the most progress across the next 12 to 18 months in terms of the orchestration, also in how that is weaving into the recruiter. And to my earlier point around the hiring manager, I mean, this is a persona that also needs to be considered in the process. So I think there's some interesting stuff happening for intake, with intake meetings, for example, which sometimes are not even considered in this whole time to hire, time to fill kind of scenario, because they sit much way before that. But actually there we also see AI doing some really fundamentally really cool things that shorten the time for like 7-8 days, because you get a note taker, you get somebody who then progresses, that prepares the interview question for you, so you have very little to review. So that is one of the areas probably where I would recommend companies look towards, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I mean, using agency recruiters always makes things easier, right? So I think that's spot on. I'm just rethinking that
As
model.
an assistant, right? So it's not necessarily like replacing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a force multiplier, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yes. Yeah.
So turning that over, and KJ, I know you probably can't tell us too much, but I'm just kind of curious, what are you building next? Like anything that you have cooking up that you're excited about, or that you're seeing that's going to kind of reshape the landscape for your value prop?
That's a great question. So there is a breadth and there's a depth, right? You can continue to build a breadth, but the depth is as important, right? We normally miss that out. So one of the things we're building is from our entire suite, from job advertising to automating and AI, using AI in social, how to create an ad unit, to how to optimize for it using geofencing, geo expansion, location expansion, right titles, to be able to track to any part of the funnel to kind of optimize for that is the job advertising area. And then we're going deeper and deeper into uh, incorporating, labor dynamics, economics, supply and demand, all of that in an automated fashion to build media plans to execute on that. Now you go forward from there, and then we have what we call as a CMS, content management system, where any career site, imagine the design you want, you can point to any career site and say, I can build it in less than half an hour, right? Just showing the design and say prompt and build the entire career site, landing pages, hiring events. So we have all of these things: interview scheduling, conversation layer, the entire layer on the candidate engagement side of the house. And I think as we go forward, you're going to build deeper and deeper into a lot of these use cases. We're running hiring events in places as far out as Brazil, Dubai, notwithstanding the US, how to kind of bring those kind of metrics into one place, how to integrate multiple systems, how to clean the data, right? We have a client where their data is not just unstructured, it's not even clean, and there's a lot of duplication. How to bring that all into one place and clean it up? Now that's on the deep end side of the house, right? Nobody does that. Everybody wants clean data to come in and say we can work off good data, but no, you're not going to get good data in our ecosystem all the time. Then you go forward to a AI CRM kind of ecosystem where it's very interesting. I've seen this NPS reports of about CRMs since last 20 years, and I have never seen one year when their NPS was better than -50. And why is it that, right? Technology has evolved, people evolved, tools are there. It's the recruiter option, it's the behavior, right? It's people have to go and click on the filter, on the button, on change it and do it everything manual. So can AI get into some kind of a task side of the house, right? Campaign creation, what's the best practice of campaign creation? How to have an omni-channel activation of campaigns, whether at what time text should happen, what's the time difference between an email to a text, what kind of a messaging, tone of voice, brand choice, all of that is such deep end where recruiters can see what they want and the AI does it for them, right? So that's side of the house where the intelligence comes to the picture. And last but not the least, I think we decide that before we get into the breadth, we'll nail one thing right, that is called as AI guardrails and compliance. Responsible AI is how we say it in a simplistic way. This is where I personally believe the liability of one interaction gone wrong could be a PR disaster for a company. There will be lawsuits coming in. We've seen some of those examples happening. And if you're not, smart people learn from other people's mistake. And I've seen that happening. So we went very, very deep. We thought that we want to get that right first before we're building features. So, perhaps, I don't know, Sven, you would know, but at least on the US side of the house, might be the only company to have ISO 42001 certification from guidelines and compliance. It was a very painful 6-month effort for us. But there's a lot of effort that we have put in to make sure that AI does not hallucinate. There's no biases over there, because it feeds the logic, right? AI is nothing. AI has existed for 25 years. It's machine learning at the end of it. It's a contextual understanding and the ability to process largest amounts of data in a very fast way is what makes AI what it is today. So putting those guardrails, being responsible, that's been a huge focus. That's where we're investing in. I believe that we want to, our entire roadmap, honestly, is basically predicated what the client's problem statements are. So we are building what we will think solve client's problem. So if we get to a use case, and I get across these use cases almost every week. So, one of the signs of a right AI company, a true AI company, is when you tell them a problem, you should be able to solve it within less than 3 months' time. Because if AI is truly inside out, that means it's built into how you write your code. It's a company is built on AI standards. Then there should not be a roadmap of 2 quarters, 3 quarters, or 4 quarters down the line. If somebody's saying, "Hey, I have this in 3 quarters, and I'll roll it out," one of my biggest clients come and says, "I want this," and I will say 3 months or 3 quarters, sorry, then I don't think you're an AI company. I don't think anybody true AI company would have a roadmap more than 3 months. So that's a mind shift again that is happening. So I think our focus is doing better at what we do, go deeper, and fix every single client's problem, because they are going to make us really, really respectful, trustworthy. Our goodwill is going to get created by that. So that's how we think about our roadmap and what new we are building.
Well, that sounds incredibly exciting. And I have to say, with a lot of conversations in this industry about AI ad nauseum, this has been one of the least nauseating and most insightful ones that I've heard. So, gentlemen, this was great. And I really want to thank you all for the honesty and the insights. And for everyone watching, I think kind of the takeaway is simple. It's AI and recruiting isn't a silver bullet. It's not magic. It's actually just math, essentially. But when it's applied thoughtfully, it's already transforming how we find and hire talent. So, big thanks again. And if you want to know more about Fosway's resource or to see Joveo's capabilities in action, I'm sure check out the links below. And thanks again for tuning in.